Dis olkies as julle stil is, hoor.
Oor 'n tema. En toe het ons ook die voorreg gehad om self België toe te gaan. En dis eintlik wonderlik dat ons so 'n netwerk kon vorm wat ons nou weer kan gebruik in hierdie moeilike tyd. En soos hy sê, ons moet mekaar help. En ons is baie dankbaar dat hy bereid is om sy tyd te gee vir ons. En ek gaan nou oorgee aan Daniel toe. So Daniel, jy kan met ons praat. Baie dankie dat jy bereid is.
Baie dankie Robert John. So ek hoor almal hier is Afrikaans, maar ek is die enigste Engelse man, so vandag gaan ek in Engels praat as dit okay met almal is. Maar julle kan vra in Afrikaans, want ek praat Afrikaans, maar miskien is dit makliker vir my om in Engels te verduidelik alles wat ek wil vanaand verduidelik. So thanks very much for having me. It's a real privilege to be here and just to have a chat with you guys tonight about what's going on at the moment, how the coronavirus is affecting us all. So just to kick us off, I want you all to think about something for me. So I want you to imagine that you are the captain of a ship, a big cargo ship that travels the oceans. And your normal route is to go between South Africa and Australia. And you've been traveling this route for years and years, so you know the seas, you know the winds, you know the boats, everything's familiar to you. And then one day you wake up and you head down to the harbor for just another trip, and you get on your boat and off you set, and then you go to bed that night, and you wake up the next morning as the captain of this ship, and suddenly you can't see, and you think to yourself, hang on, what's going on here? And you feel around your face and you realize there's a blindfold tied to your face. You can't get it off. You try and try. You notice your heart rate starts to go up. You start to feel a bit sweaty. There's a bit of nausea. You start to worry, what the hell is going on here? You hear from the control room, the guys are calling you, Captain, come get us. We don't know what's going on here. So you fumble around and off you set. You know the ship, so you can kind of feel your way up to the control room. But you start to feel a bit like irritable and angry on your way up there because why have you got this blindfold on? What is going on? And you get to the control room and the guys say, Captain, we don't know what's going on. Where are we going? Where are we going? And you say, I can't see. Help me take this blindfold off. I can't see anything. And they try, and for some reason this blindfold just won't come off. And then eventually your second in command says to you, Captain, I don't know what's going on, but I've just looked at the radar and we're not heading to Australia. We're heading to Brazil. Suddenly you start to panic. Brazil? We've never been to Brazil. I don't know the route. I don't know how to get there. I don't know what I'm going to do. You start to feel like you can't breathe. You start to shake a little bit. You feel like you're getting like a hot flush. Okay. So if you were that captain in that situation, that would be a completely normal response. I'm sure all of you can agree. I know that none of you are, that you're all muted at the moment, so you can't talk back to me, but I'm sure you'll all agree that in that situation, the captain is responding normally, right? It's very stressful. He doesn't know what he's going to do. That is exactly the situation that we are in now with the coronavirus, okay? You set off on your day a couple of months ago, just expecting any normal day like you used to, with the job that you had, or hopefully still have, with the family that you have and know, and life was as normal as it could have been. And then you woke up the next day and everything had changed, right? So just like that captain, you're going to experience some stress. Stress is a normal and absolutely normal response to anything that we have in our environment that we perceive as a threat, okay? And one of the biggest drivers of stress is uncertainty. So just like that captain on that ship who doesn't know the waters, doesn't know the winds, you're heading to Brazil, you have no idea where you're going. It's all uncertain, right? It's exactly the same at the moment for us all of us at the moment in the coronavirus. I mean, we're a couple of months in now, so we know more about the virus and the risks and how to take care of ourselves. But there's a lot we don't know. We don't know, some of us don't know about our job security. Some of us don't know where our next paycheck is going to come from. Some of us don't know how to manage the stresses that we are experiencing, in addition to all this uncertainty that's going on in the world. We don't know what to do about connecting with people who we love, our friends, our family. We don't know when we're going to get a vaccine, right? So we're facing all this uncertainty. So there's a lot of stress going on, and that stress plays out, right? Usually stress happens in one of two ways. Either we have an acute stressor, okay, which is like being in a, let's say like you're crossing the road, a car comes at you, hoots at you, you get a big fright, massive release of two hormones, cortisol and adrenaline into your system. You feel that frightening feeling, and then it goes away as you calm down over time. But the second kind of stressor is the one that's difficult, and that's chronic stress. So that's when there's something going on, and you probably all experienced it just like I have before. Maybe it was at work, maybe at school, you were going through a tough time, you had a big project that you were working on, or there's a relationship that you're in constant conflict in, either at home or at work or at school, wherever you are. That causes ongoing stress, right? Because there's this ongoing kind of threat, and I say threat because that's how our bodies are responding to that stimulus, right? Our stress response is just an alarm system that we've used. We've evolved with, and it stays within our bodies to help us detect threat. So when that threat is an ongoing one, and it doesn't seem that big, if you're just having an argument with your boss here, or with someone at school there, or just a fight, or you're getting a bit irritable with your spouse when you get home, it doesn't seem that big because it's like a normal life thing. And it is a normal life thing, but it causes stress, okay? Because we respond in the same way as if we're experiencing something that could be potentially life-threatening. So stress is completely normal, and we all experience it. The flip side of stress, okay, is something called anxiety. We all have anxiety as well. And the difference is minor, but it's important. So anxiety is about something in the future. Anxiety is when we are worrying about some potential future event that hasn't actually happened yet. And we start to think and think and think, what if, what if, what if? So we know if we're thinking what if, we're experiencing a bit of anxiety. So what does this all mean, right? Why is it important? Because just like that captain, all of those things that the captain was experiencing, maybe he was feeling a bit shaky, he was starting to worry a lot, what's going on, where am I going to go, what are we doing, what's happening here, feeling a bit nauseous, feeling a bit irritable and angry, right? Those are all normal symptoms, normal experiences that we have when we're feeling stressed or when we're feeling anxious. So just learning to identify those things as part of a normal stress response to something in our environment that's threatening, in this case, the coronavirus, the uncertainty that goes along with it, sort of both from a medical and a health standpoint, and from an economic standpoint. We've seen all kinds of economic stimulus around the world, but we don't know what's going to happen. South African economy has taken on a huge amount of debt. It's been huge job losses. But why haven't people been getting jobs back, if the government is providing all the stimulus? So there's a lot of questions. We don't know what's going on. So when we don't know what's going on, our brain responds with a stress response to keep us protected. Because just like that captain who can't see anything and doesn't know where he's going, the most helpful way his body can respond is to prepare him for fight or flight. Because he doesn't know, right? He doesn't know if he's going to be attacked, if he's going to hit a big wave. So his body's got to be ready. So his muscles get tense. Those hormones in his system go off to prepare him to act, right? To act in the face of all this uncertainty. And that's exactly what we experience as well. So that's just a bit of a background about stress and what stress is and why we're experiencing it at the moment. The other ways that stress might show up, so we might feel a bit more irritable. We could feel like we're not sleeping so well. That's very, very common. Feeling a bit out of control, in younger kids especially, it's like bodily problems, like maybe they have a sore tummy, or they're feeling a bit nauseous, or there's constant headaches, or their appetite's changed, seeming more restless or worrying more than usual, withdrawing. Those are all signs that your child might be feeling stressed, and you might experience those symptoms yourself if you're feeling a bit stressed. Now, why it's important to recognize that we all have stress and that it's especially happening to all of us right now is because stress compounds. So let me tell you another story. Okay, I want you to imagine that there's a family of 3 people and the husband comes home from work, but actually things haven't been going that well. He's been worrying about his job, right? 2 people have been laid off in his company. It's a small company. So he's thinking, what if I'm next? I don't know what I'm going to do. But he doesn't know how to talk about it, right? He knows he's got to be the strong man. He's got to show that he knows how to handle things. So he doesn't say anything about his stress. He feels a bit irritable. He feels a bit of chest pain when he comes home, which is familiar to him. It started happening like 2 weeks ago when these people started getting laid off. And he comes home and he sees that his wife hasn't made dinner. So he picks on that. He goes, why haven't you made dinner? And they end up having this huge fight. Okay, when actually neither of them made a plan. It was both of their mess up. So his wife then becomes irritated. Later that evening, she walks into the TV room, sees their child sitting on the couch watching TV while the room isn't cleaned up, and snaps at the child for being messy. Okay, the child, meanwhile, has been worrying all day about his grandparents, who are frail, who he misses, who he hasn't seen in weeks and weeks and weeks because he's been told to stay away because he doesn't want to give them the coronavirus. So he then burst into tears. So we can see in this family, dad's stress has become mom's stress, which has become the child's stress. And all of a sudden, the whole family is stressed, irritable, frustrated, and anxious, and nobody's talking about it. So stress is important to recognize because it can compound in this way, and it compounds quite quickly. Now, of course, why are we so stressed at the moment is because of all the uncertainty surrounding the coronavirus. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen today, tomorrow, next week, next month. We don't know when the borders are going to open up. We don't know when there's going to be a vaccine. We just don't know. And the problem is that even if we do know something today, that changes. Tomorrow is a different story, right? So not only do the facts change, but our response to the facts changes as well. The way we experience our stress changes as well. A second factor that's making things difficult at the moment is the fact that the media is trying to bombard us with all this information every second of every day. And the information is designed to make you respond. So it's designed to be sensational. It's designed to get a rise out of you, which is going to drive that stress response up again. So managing our stress and anxiety is kind of the only way to ensure that we're dealing with this very, very difficult situation in the best way possible. But are we just stressed? I mean, is that the only thing that we're experiencing? Of course not. we forget how much we're already doing to cope. So I want everyone who's listening at the moment to just do a little exercise with me. Okay, if you've got access to a pen and paper, grab your pen and paper. If you've got access to a cell phone or a laptop, anything that you can basically take a note on, just get that in front of you for now. Okay. And I want you to just write down 2 things that you've learned about yourself that you weren't aware of before the pandemic. Okay, and I want these to be 2 strengths or 2 things you're doing to cope, 2 things that tell you that even if things get worse somehow, you'll be okay. So just take a moment to think about that and write down 2 things that you're doing at the moment or that you know about yourself, things that habits that you have potentially, or things that you know you could do if you were stressed. And it might be something small, like you learned that if you take a walk after work, it really helps to de-stress you. It might be learning that you actually can use video conferencing and technology to connect with people who you probably wouldn't have connected with otherwise. So whatever it is for you, just write down those 2 things. I'll give you a moment to do that. Okay. So that's important, right? Because I mean, when you're doing this exercise, I'm sure you realize, hang on, there are things that I've been doing. There are strengths that I have, right? I am actually quite resilient. There are things that I am doing to cope. I'm not just stressed. And that's often how it can feel. We can see things in kind of this black and white way, where when we're feeling stressed, it's like stress is the only thing that's happening. Like nothing else in our life is going right. But of course, that's not true. And our brains are designed to kind of zone in on the negative in our lives so that we can solve those problems. But when the problem is persistent uncertainty, that's a difficult one to solve. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about 2 broad strategies that we can use to manage the stress that we're experiencing at the moment. The first one is to try and prevent stress and anxiety from getting out of control. Okay, so catch it before it gets bad. And the second thing is to use practical techniques to manage the anxiety when it arises. So I'm just going to go through some things that you can do to prevent anxiety. And the first thing is to stay physically healthy, okay? Those experiences that we have when we're stressed are physical bodily experiences. So if our body is in a position where it's not as resilient as it could be, the stress is going to affect us worse than it should. The way to stay healthy, I'm sure you guys all know this, you eat healthy foods, drink enough water, make sure you get enough sleep. That's super, super important, and I'll talk more about sleep later. Limit how much caffeine, nicotine, and alcohol you take in. I wonder if everyone's got a stash of alcohol that they've been hiding away now that we can't buy it. Or maybe a whole pack of cigarettes they're hiding under their beds. And the reason I'm saying stay away from these 3 substances in particular is because all of them interfere with restful sleep, and all of them can increase anxiety, while nicotine and alcohol can actually suppress your immune responses, so it can make you a bit more vulnerable. And then the last thing that I would say in terms of staying healthy is just to exercise every day if you can. The World Health Organization recommends about 30 minutes of exercise a day for adults and about an hour for kids, okay, which sounds like a lot, but it doesn't have to be. It's just about getting your body to move. It can be as simple as playing with a pet, doing some sit-ups, push-ups, and squats at home, going for a walk down the street, doing yoga, watching a YouTube video to kind of follow along, following some kind of online fitness program. And remember, exercise can be fun. You can make it a game with your partner, your family, your kids. You can set up a points log, create a family competition, whatever makes it something that you can do. And the reason that exercise is important is because it helps to reduce the levels of cortisol in our body. It's like a natural de-stressant. The second thing that's quite important to help prevent the stress and anxiety is to stay informed with reliable information about COVID-19. So we've all, there's news coming from all directions, but not all of it's useful, not all of it's helpful. And it's actually not helpful to be plugging into that news all day, every day either. So just make sure that you're getting the reliable information that you need. And we'll talk more about how much time you should spend doing that every day. The third thing that really helps to prevent stress from getting out of control is to stay connected to the people that we love. Okay. And I mean, if you think about it, we're social animals in the way that we interact with other people, in the way that we manage our stress and anxiety in general. And we are different from other mammals in the way that if you scare an animal, right? If you scare a dog, or you scare cats, or you scare a rat or a rabbit, where does it go? It finds a place where it's safe, right? The rabbit will run to its hole, the cat will run away and go and hide, the dog will go and hide. Where do we go when we're scared? We go to our people, right? We go home. We don't want to go to a space where we're all alone. When we're feeling stressed, what do? We phone someone. Or in normal circumstances, we go and connect. We have a cup of coffee with someone. Why is that? Because we need that connection, and just having that connection with people de-stresses us. Now, of course, it's super difficult to have that connection. You know, we can kind of half cheat a bit, go for a walk with a friend, as long as you're being safe. But use technology, use WhatsApp, Zoom, whatever you need to do. See people, you know, having that physical, it's as close as we can get to physical interaction with the people that we care about and love. Very, very important. The fourth thing that I would say really helps to help manage the stress and anxiety is to have a routine, okay? And have a routine that works for you. Don't try and follow some perfect routine. Have a routine that makes you feel energized and makes you feel more in control of your day. This is especially important if you're working from home at the moment. I'm sure everyone's kind of settled into a new routine if they are working from home. But if there are still some struggles, just write it down. Even just writing it down and seeing it on paper can be helpful, because then when you feel like you don't know what to do or you're feeling distracted, you can look at that piece of paper and go, okay, hang on, this is what I'm doing now. Let me stick to it, because I know that this is how I want to structure my day. The fifth thing that I want to touch on is about limiting your media exposure. Okay, so because we're exposed to all this news about the coronavirus and all the effects about that, the economic effects, the health effects, you know, their deaths, there's all kinds of stuff we're very, very stressed about. Being plugged into that all day, every day is not good for us. Okay, it just serves to increase our stress and anxiety completely unnecessarily. We need to know a little bit, but we kind of know what we need to know. And as the saying goes, you know, bad news finds you, and no news is good news. So if you do want to check on things, what I would suggest is creating something called a worry window. Okay, and a worry window is just taking some time, let's say 15 minutes once a day, where you get the updates that you need from about the coronavirus or health updates or whatever you need. But basically, that's the time that you allow yourself to worry about the coronavirus and the effects that it's having in your life. And after that, that's it. Okay, do other things, do your work, play with your kids, read a book, do whatever makes you happy. And the last thing that I want to talk about in terms of preventing stress and anxiety is about being kind to yourself, understanding that you are actually doing your best, right? We're really hard on ourselves, and we often expect a lot of ourselves. We shouldn't be feeling this way. We shouldn't be doing this. But that's just not true, right? This is an unprecedented experience that we're all going through. So be kind to yourself, have fun, do things that make you feel good. So those are the tips that I have about sort of preventing stress and anxiety. And then I'm going to move on to managing stress and anxiety. And then I'll talk a bit about some family stuff. And then I'll talk very briefly about sleep and sleep hygiene. And then we'll open up some time for questions. Okay. So of course we can do as much as we can to prevent stress and anxiety, but they happen, right? We have a conflict with our partner. We have a difficult experience at work. We get a fright on the way to wherever we're going because we nearly have a car accident. So this happens. When we feel stressed, we've got to do stuff to help manage that stress. Exercise is a great way to prevent and manage stress, but there's some other practical things that we can do. Okay. What I want to do now is go through one of those exercises with you. This is an exercise that you can do anytime and in any place, and it's appropriate for people of all ages. Okay. So I want you just to sit comfortably, and hopefully the audio is on. But I want you to close your eyes because we're going to do a body scan. So just begin by closing your eyes. Okay. And I want you just to bring your attention to how your body is feeling right now. So just notice how it feels if you're seated, how are you sitting. Okay, we're just going to start by taking a few deep breaths in. So I'll count. We're going to do 4 seconds in, we're going to hold it for 3 seconds, and we're going to do 4 seconds out. So when you're breathing in, I want you to imagine like you're smelling a rose. Okay, then you just hold the breath. And when you're breathing it out, I want you to imagine like you're blowing out a candle. Okay, really nice and slow. And try and breathe into your stomach area rather than into your chest. So we don't want to have the chest going up and down. I want to kind of have breathing into your stomach. So you can even put your one hand on your chest and one hand on your stomach to see which part of your body moves, and then just focus on making it like a belly breath. Okay, so let's start. Take a breath in. Keep going. Hold it. And out. Very good. Let's take another one in. Smell that rose. Hold. And blow that candle out. Last time, deep breath in. Hold it. And blow that candle out. And just notice, just by doing those 3 breaths, whether anything has changed in how you're experiencing your body right now. Now we're going to start just by bringing your attention to your feet on the floor. Okay, just notice your feet, if they're touching the floor. Notice the sensations. Is there any pressure pressing down into your shoes, or maybe you're wearing some slippers? Can you feel the weight of your feet on the floor? Do your feet feel warm, cold? Just notice the sensations. There's nothing right or wrong here. It's just about noticing what is at the moment. Slowly travel from your feet up to your calves, over your knees, to your thighs. If you're wearing pants, feel that material on there. Maybe you're wearing pajamas already. If you are, I'm jealous. Notice how it feels. Notice your legs against the chair, whatever you're sitting on. If there's pressure, any heaviness, any lightness. Maybe there's a difference between the left and the right leg. Don't try and change how it feels, just notice the feeling. Now notice your back against the chair. Travel slowly up your spine. See if there are any areas of tension that you notice, areas of relaxation. As you get all the way to the top of your spine, and bring your attention to your stomach area. How does your stomach feel? Are you hungry? Is there any tension? Is it tight? If it is, just try and let it soften. Take a breath if you need to. Bring your attention now to your hands. How do they feel? Are they resting in your lap? Are they on the sides? Are you holding hands with your partner maybe? Are they tense or tight? Warm or cold? If there's any tension in your hands, just see if you can let them soften. Bring your attention up to your arms. What's the sensation like in your arms? How do they feel? Can you feel the material touching your arms? What about your shoulders? Are they tense? Are they near your ears? Not where they should be. If they are there, just let them drop down nice and gently. Notice your neck and your throat. Just let them be soft and relaxed. But however they are, that's okay. Bring your attention up to your face, beginning at your jaw. Are you clenching your jaw? If you are, just let it go. Just notice how it feels, how your face feels. Is it warm, cold? Maybe some tickly sensations. Let your facial muscles be soft. Then just notice your whole body, right? From your toes all the way up to your legs, stomach, back, arms, shoulders, head. Notice how your body feels. Take one last breath in, hold it, and blow it out. Okay. You can all open your eyes now. So that's just a body scan exercise. That took us 5 minutes. Okay. And I want you to just notice how you felt just doing the exercise, right? It seems like what's the point in that sometimes? People don't really get the body scan. But the point of it is to make us, first of all, aware of how we're doing. Okay. Because sometimes we're carrying tension and we don't even recognize it. Our shoulders are tight or our back's tight or something's going on. And just bringing our attention to our body allows us to release any stress or tension that we're holding. The breathing itself helps to calm us down. So that's something you can do at any time, any place, anytime you just need a break for 5 minutes. Whatever's going on in your world, you can do that. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with your partner, with your friends, with your kids, with your parents. So that's just something short, practical that you can implement at any time to help manage your stress. I'm going to skip over the other exercise I have, but I can always send Robert, John, and Stefan a list of things that might be helpful to manage stress. Because I just want to talk in the next sort of 10 minutes or so about what can we do in our families. Because I know that, we're all locked down with each other, and being with your partner and your kids or your parents can be quite stressful. And there can be conflict and irritation. So I want to talk a bit about that and how we can manage that. So I'll kind of go through parents, kids, and maybe the elderly as well, just to offer some tips for each sort of age group. So for parents, always remember that the parental relationship is the foundation that your family is built on. So it's important to nurture it and to take care of it. We forget in a time like this that we need to lean on each other as teammates. Just like that captain who's stressed in the ship and he has his blindfold on and can't see where he's going, he needs his second in command to help him navigate these waters that he doesn't understand. And the irony is that it's easiest for us to get irritated and frustrated with the people in our families because they're closest to us, right? And actually it's because we feel safest with them. So we need to try and focus as parents on building a strong unit because our family is built around that unit. And one of the best ways to do that is just to make sure that we're communicating effectively with our partners. So there's a very simple kind of formula for communicating effectively about how you're doing. And it goes like this. I feel X when Y because Z, okay? Example, I feel stressed when I don't know what to do about my job because I don't like feeling uncertain and I want to provide for you and my family. Okay, another example. I feel hurt when you don't help with the chores because I need to feel like we're a team in the house. So parents, using these communication techniques, just that I feel X when Y happens because of Z, with your partner, with your kids, can be super effective because it does two things, right? It helps you get in touch with what's going on, and it helps you communicate effectively and honestly with your partner, which can help your relationship. Remember to treat your partner like your best friend, right? What would you do if your best friend was in a situation? We often forget that. Often our partner is our best friend, right? But if I said, if your best friend was stressed and didn't know what to do and had a parent who had the coronavirus and couldn't visit them, what advice would you give them? You'd probably be kind. You'd probably be patient and understanding with them and listen to their concerns. But maybe when it's your partner, you're impatient and you're like, don't bring me this again. We've talked about this so many times. Okay. Remember, your partner is your team unit, is your best friend. So treat them like that. Okay. So I've also been asked just to kind of give some parenting tips for managing the uncertainty around the coronavirus and the stress that the family unit is going through. So a really important thing is to spend some one-on-one time with your kids every day if possible, and it doesn't have to be long. It can be 10 minutes playing a game, and it's important to do something that the child enjoys, okay? Even if, it's more appropriate with younger kids, but even if you have teenage, adolescent kids, spending some time just chatting with them, how they're doing, what are they going through at the moment, can be super meaningful. In terms of behavior, praising good behavior rather than punishing bad behavior, especially with younger children. And I know it's frustrating having young kids. So one of the tricks there to use is to say what you want to see, not what you don't. So it's like saying, please will you put away your clothes, rather than saying, don't be so messy. For kids, like for you, it's important for them to stay connected with their friends, right? They also feel lonely, and they also feel scared, and they also feel like they need some connection. You can be creative, have a play date on Zoom, or play cards or online games. Having like a tea party online for the young girls can be super helpful ways to help them connect with their friends. Children also need routine. So at the moment, I don't know what's happening with the schools there, but there's been a lot of uncertainty with the schools here. Certain grades have gone back, certain grades haven't. So having some kind of flexible but consistent routine is important for children to help them feel contained and to help them know what to expect from their day. Having family time at the end of the day is also really, really helpful. Just to connect, see how everyone's doing, spend a bit of time together as a family. That is dedicated family time. One of the things you can ask each other to make it kind of the signal that this is the family time is just go around the table, maybe when you're having dinner, and ask everyone, what went well for you today? Remember as well that when you're in a family and when you're in a relationship, it can feel too enmeshed, right? It can feel like you're spending too much time together, and that's not good for anyone. So take breaks too. Make sure you schedule some time for yourself, okay, to make sure that you're taking care of yourself as well. For teens in general, it's important for teens to stay connected with their friends and to focus on daily habits. If there are teenagers listening tonight, then do the things that help you feel good and help bring you towards your goal, right? So for everyone, small changes over time add up to big results. Whether that's exercising every day, or maybe doing some reading, and studying that you don't really feel like doing, but you probably should do. Small changes, big results over time. I know that some people are stressed about school and stressed about university. What if I can't write matric? What if we can't go to university next year? Importantly, that's just about normal anxiety, right? Everyone is going through that right now. Everyone is uncertain about what's happening with universities next year. It's really helpful if you can to try and get in touch with universities, get the information that you need from them, be in touch with your schools, get the information that you need from them. But other than that, if it's something that's out of your control or is just an inherent uncertainty, to use those anxiety management techniques that you've got and that we've gone through tonight. Okay, sleep is also super, super important for children and adolescents, right? For teens, at least 8 hours. And I know parents are often kind of haggling their kids about getting to bed at a certain time and waking up at a certain time. And teenagers often want to stay up late. What I can tell you is that that's not them just being rebellious. It's also normal for teenagers to want to go to bed later. They have a circadian rhythm that shifts over time. So it's normal for them to sleep later. If they don't have to go to school and they want to sleep later and go to bed later, maybe it's not such a bad thing. Okay, so for young kids, playtime and keeping busy is really, really important. Okay, so make sure that you're able to schedule that into your sessions with your children. Healthy diet as well, also really important. Enough sleep. So for 3 to 5 year olds, they typically need about 10 to 13 hours of sleep a day. And for 6 to 13 year olds, anywhere between 9 and 11 hours a day. And sleep is really important. When we don't have enough sleep, our body's under stress, which means we can feel more stressed and anxious. Exercise is also really important for young kids, both to reduce any kind of built-up energy and stress that they have, and also for their physical development, right? It's an important way for kids to learn how to use their bodies, how to interact with others. Often children also present with kind of headaches or maybe a sore tummy or something like that. And if your child is experiencing some of those issues and you don't know what to do about it, just remember that those might be signs that your child is feeling a bit stressed and doesn't know how to talk about that. So if that's a recurring complaint and you've been to the doctor and there isn't really anything that you can identify that's going wrong, then just talk to your child and just say, listen, how are you doing? What's going on? How are you feeling? Um, play with them if they're a young child, because often that can help them to open up with you. But just talk to them and see what's stressing them out. And then I've also been talking with Robert, John, and Stefan about some of the elderly community around there. And apparently people are feeling very lonely. Of course you're feeling lonely, right? The elderly communities, especially those who are in old age homes, have been advised to kind of stay as isolated as possible, don't see anyone. They're a more vulnerable population. That is super difficult, right? It's normal in that phase of life to want to be connecting with people, to want to be adding value back to your family's lives, to the lives of the youth in your community. So if you can't do it in an in-person way, or maybe you've got elderly relatives who are sharing these concerns with you, maybe helping them express those kinds of things that they would have done in person in another way could be really helpful. So something like drawing up a document of like, what is the wisdom that I want to pass on to my family? Not just because we're worried that they're going to get the coronavirus and it's going to be, it's kind of a life-threatening event, but because it gives them something to do and it gives them something to focus on that can be important and meaningful in their lives right now during this time. So finding a way of turning this crisis into an opportunity. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about, because I want to leave some time for questions this evening, is just about sleep. All right, because I know that a lot of us are struggling with sleep at the moment, and that's one of the classic signs that we are under stress, we're feeling a bit anxious. So sleep is super important. Helps to regulate our hormone levels. It's important for growth, for memory, for regulating our stress levels. Okay, so getting enough sleep is really important. And then the irony is that when we're stressed, we can't get any sleep, right? And the reason for that is because we've got increased cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and adrenaline, which is that hormone that gets us ready for action. It kind of fires us up. So some general tips about sleep. We call this like sleep hygiene. Okay, it's things like limiting caffeine and alcohol because those interfere with sleep. Exercising regularly, again, but not too close to bedtime because your body temperature rises when you exercise. And sleep is kind of linked to our normal rises and falls in body temperature during the day. So there's a natural kind of decrease in our body temperature until the time that we sleep. So if we exercise or if we have a warm bath or a warm shower too close to bedtime, it can actually seriously interfere with our sleep. If you're struggling to sleep, try like a light bedtime snack like milk, peanut butter, or cheese. Those all contain chemicals that help the brain kind of relax and go to bed. Keep your bedroom quiet and dark. That's also really, really helpful because if we can hear stuff and it's distracting already trying to get to sleep, that can be difficult. And keep your bedroom cool. That's also really important, again, because of the dip in our body temperature. I don't think it should be a difficult thing to keep your bedroom cool at the moment because it's winter. And yeah, okay, so that's kind of that's what I wanted to cover tonight. Robert, John, and Stefan, is there anything that you want to add or you want to ask, or have there been any questions that have come through that we can start to answer?
I just want to ask some people if they have questions on the Zoom, they can unmute themselves and they can ask the question. But we are also looking at the questions that are being typed. I think it will be easier if people type. So we would prefer that. But if there's something urgent or really important that you need to ask quickly on Zoom, you can unmute yourself. So Stefan, there is one question on YouTube you want to ask, or you read. He's gonna read that to you.
Yes, so
Sure.
there's a person asking that even though, especially when you are alone, it can be difficult in connecting
Mm.
with people. You can only exercise and sleep that much in one day. So what would be your recommendation if you're isolated and maybe far from loved ones? What's the best way to connect or to deal with your anxiety or stress?
Yeah. No, I think that's a really important question because some people are far from their loved ones, and I think that's an especially difficult position to be in. So I think, using the channels that are available to you to try and connect with the people that you love, using WhatsApp video calls, using Zoom, whatever you have access to. And I think so, sometimes it's also an affordability thing if you don't have access to Wi-Fi and you need to buy data and that kind of thing. But the question then is sort of like, what's more important, your health and your well-being, or an extra $50 spent on data this month? Um, so that's what I would recommend, is just to try and connect with people as much as you can. If you have friends around, try, go for a walk with friends. People are doing that. That's possible. Find ways to keep yourself entertained. But it is difficult, and just recognize that that is a really difficult position to be in, and have kind of patience and grace with yourself that you're doing the best you can.
Yes, yeah, it is not easy, and you can't give something that will just solve that difficult situation. But yeah, thank you for just giving something to try. And I think, yeah, what you're saying is, look where what you
Mm,
can do, um, and then
mm,
there might be
mm,
some things you can do. Maybe there's one person even you can walk with, or one person you can
exactly.
call. So yeah, so it's also about not just focusing on the situation. So thank you for that. Yeah, we're still
Yeah, I
waiting
think
for
I,
questions.
I think on that, yeah, if we're still waiting for some questions, one of the really helpful things that we can do when we're in a situation like that, and especially, at the moment, we're so stressed because of all the uncertainty around the coronavirus, that we don't sit and take time to think about exactly what things are that we're stressed. So, one of the exercises that I love to do and that I find super helpful, and the people that I work with find very helpful as well, is just a very quick exercise called List and Let Go. And what you do is you just sit down and you write down a list of all the things that you're worried about, or that you're stressed about, or that are causing you anxiety or loneliness or whatever. And then so just write it down. Don't worry about what order or anything. Then you go down the list, okay? And you put a tick next to those things that you can control, and a cross next to the things that you can't control. And you'll be surprised at the amount of things that you're worrying about that are actually completely out of your control, right? If I'm unhappy because it's cold outside and I'm worrying about whether it's going to be cold outside, what's the point in that, right? I can't control the weather, right? The only thing I can control is my response to the weather. So when you've got that list and you've divided it then into what you can control and what you can't control, that's your list. That's the list part of the exercise. Then you can focus your energies on problem solving, those things that you can control. It's like, I'm feeling restless. I can control that. I'm going to go for a walk. Okay. I'm feeling lonely. I can control that. I can connect with someone. Okay. I'm feeling worried about my job security. I can't control that. What do we do about those things that we can't control? That's the hard part, right? Because what we have to do is we have to accept those problems. We have to accept those worries and that we can't control them. And we have to learn to let them go, and learn to respond differently, to recognize I can't control that, but I can respond differently to it.
Yes, thank you. I think what that helps us with is it reminds us that we can't just live. Uh, we must take time to reflect, maybe even write things down, think about what is happening and what I can control. Otherwise, it can become so
Yeah.
overwhelming and chaotic. So there's something of the habit of creating the habit of reflecting and discerning, um, and that might help us.
Absolutely.
There's a question. Someone it has to do with children. What do you do when your children are very interested in, say, for example, YouTube or Facebook, and they sort of don't focus on their schoolwork, or they try to ignore that, but you have your own work, and yeah, it's difficult for you. What do you do then? Yeah, because obviously that it makes them happy, but you also know your schoolwork is important, and they are often at home. So yeah, something of that challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's also, I mean, look, if we think about kids in general, they're going to do anything that they can do under any circumstances not to do their schoolwork, right? That's a normal child. So the difference is that now they can't go play sport to go to the movies. So the distractions these days are Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whatever they do have access to, they prefer to do than their schoolwork. So that is really difficult, right? Because everyone has their own work to do. You know, you're still working, still trying to put food on the table. You can't just become a school teacher overnight, but that's often what's expected of people. And you're a parent, you're not a teacher. So depending on the age of the child, I mean, you're going to have to give varying levels of input, and obviously more with younger children because they're not as independent and can't do the work themselves. But I think what might be good is just to sit down with them and kind of go with the flow. So if the child wants to go on YouTube and Facebook, go, okay, cool. We're not going to say no completely, but you have to do schoolwork, and that you would be at school between 8 and 2 or whatever the normal school hours were. Let's cut that down. Let's say that instead of 8 to 2, we're going to make it 4 hours, and we're going to give you a break every hour, right? So every hour we'll give you a break for 20 minutes, and in that 20 minutes you can go on Facebook or YouTube or whatever you want to do. So allow the child to have something to look forward to, right? To incentivize them to do the work, because it will do two things. It gives them what they want, and it helps them feel empowered. Put the power in their hands. Say, okay, how do you want your day to look? Let's draw up a schedule together. What do you want to be in your day? When do you want to do what work? Maybe they go, well, I really hate my maths, so I'd rather do that first thing, get it out the way, and then go, okay, cool, we put maths in first, and then you can reward yourself with 20 minutes YouTube video, okay? So just working with the kid to help incentivize them to do the work and make them feel empowered.
Yes, I think so. So what I hear from you is including them, but also giving so you as a parent make the decision. You'll have to do your homework, but you give them the option or options to choose from, and also then spare time to choose what they want to do, and then they feel, okay, I can still Facebook and YouTube, but I feel heard, and I feel I can do what I like, but the work is also being done. So I think, thank you for that. So you're not just saying, no, you must work and that's it.
Yeah, that kind of disciplinarian, very strict approach doesn't really work, and it's not the most effective way to get kids to do what is good for them. Because I know, the thing is that parents care a lot about their children, and they want the best for them. That's why they're saying this. But children want to find out for themselves what's the best for them. So by saying to the child, what do you want? How can you design your day to be best for you? You're making them feel empowered. You're making them feel like you respect their decisions, that you're taking them into account. They're feeling heard and thought about. And all of a sudden, the whole game changes, because they'll probably just naturally say, oh, okay, well, I'll do this, and then I'll go on Facebook afterwards.
Is there any other question? I think we will shortly have to conclude everything. So we just give one question more, if there is any question. So I don't have a question here on Zoom. Okay, but I will start to summarize. I think, I just want to thank you again for your time, Daniel. Thank you for giving us a story, an image of the boat, and the captain, it normalizes everything, and we, all of us are actually on the same boat. We're experiencing the
Exactly.
same things. It's not always specifically the same things, but the emotions and the uncertainty and the stress is something we all experience. So thank you for normalizing that, and helping us to understand what actually is happening, and then also giving us some practical ideas and tips that might help. We have to try these things now, and also see what works for us. Not all of it might work, but at least there might be a few things that can help us. And something I take from this is the importance of reflecting, and maybe even journaling. I like to rather just be with people, but the important thing of not just living and doing, but thinking about what is happening and what can I control. Yes, thank you for the practical side, and also involving us with trying the techniques. So yes, I will. People can contact me or Stefan if they want some more techniques, and then I can contact you. Um, yeah, someone just said, yeah, thank you very much for the session and the practical advice. They appreciate that. So thank you. Yeah, it's not just theory high up in the sky. So thank you for that. Yes.
Yeah, that's a pleasure. Thanks very much for inviting me on and to talk tonight. And like you're saying, Robert John, we're all in the same boat, you know, and we are all in that captain's shoes, right? We all don't know what's going to happen next. It's all very uncertain, and it is stressful. So we've got to have patience with ourselves during this time.
Someone also said, no, it was very helpful. So that was my feeling as well.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye, everyone.